So today's topic, incels. An involuntary celibate is someone who tries but cannot, according to themselves, be successful in mating with other people.
So they're blaming on others.
If you could summarize your opinion towards women.
Like what I think of them?
Yes.
I do think they are very important, but... hey, I'm Brendio. I also go by Derrick. I'm an incel, and I'm here to answer people's questions about the topic.
I can start. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
So you're an incel?
Yes.
Why would you ever sign up to do this?
I suppose I would want to give more of a positive light on this community, which is a very negative light upon it.
Okay, and do you think that's a good thing?
Yes.
Why
are you mad, bro? Calm down.
These are weird questions you're asking. You think it's a good thing that you're trying to make your people look good? Okay.
Because a lot of the boys in this community aren't bad people.
But you acknowledge that a good handful of them are, right?
Not a good handful, I would say a small handful.
That's the worst logic you can use. If you're going to use that logic to describe incels because some of them do something terrible, we could apply that to almost any group, whether it be Muslims, whether it be white people, whether it be, careful what kind of logical patterns you're trying to go down, because once it's used against you, you can't be like, oh, that's bigoted. No, you set the standards.
So, yeah.
If a woman was elected as president of the United States, how would you react?
I don't know. It probably would depend on the woman. I probably wouldn't be supportive of it, honestly, but.
Why do you say that, if you don't mind me asking?
I do think that men should be the leaders and women should be the caregivers and the loving, supporting, and the teachers in some cases.
Since women of color or just women in general have been oppressed by certain systems and other oppressed communities, especially the LGBTQ+, all those don't really fit with the spectrum that incels or you have been talking about. So why do you think your method of thought would help fix what we have today?
He doesn't want to fix it. That's the thing. Like the way you ask your question, you brought all this thing up. He doesn't want to fix that. That's what he believes in. He don't care about you. He don't care about what you've been suffering about. It should be like that. And that's the way it is. So you bringing that to make him feel some type of way it's gonna fail. What makes you think he wants to change that? How is the way you think gonna change that? I don't want to change anything. He don't.
I probably wouldn't view the things that you might view as oppression as oppression.
See? It doesn't matter how you think.
I have a feeling. I would view it more as how we treat children that we love.
Because she's approaching the conversation as if they're both equals. He's like, no, you're a child.
You're a child.
And, we're going to take care of you like you're a child.
We control them, but we control them lovingly, not as we're forcing them to do things against their will. I would view it more as a loving domestic thing in the past.
Bruv, you can't say we're not treating you like a or like this or like that, and then talk about them as if they are pets, as if they are people who are not capable of making decisions for themselves. You are pushing them into servitude. If you're taking away their ability to choose, you're forcing them. It's like saying, bro, you got multiple avenues to choose, but you can't use A or B, you just got C. You're not letting me choose, you're forcing me down a path.
It's a fake choice.
Exactly. On this channel, we preach a lot about accountability. So sometimes we have critiques of women, or we're like, yo, y'all can do better in this area because you guys have the power to. You have the ability to make those decisions for yourself and to be better so that we're all better. Same thing for the men, when we give certain advices in regards to certain problems and situations. And now his mantra is like, no, men should make all the choices because ladies, you don't have the moral responsibility or the aptitude to do it. I ain't with that.
And I would say that if we were to do it in a civilized way, maybe in a more even a Christian way, even though I'm not really advocating for a certain religion or ideology, I would assume that women would probably be happier. And I wouldn't just assume that blindly, I would assume that based on the data that I have seen.
This man is very good
at not saying shit.
Yes, you talk a lot, but you don't say much, and you talk a lot in circles. And in order to appear diplomatic, you're masking your sexist views in more simple languages, but most of us can still detect it. Just say what you want to say, because you're sugarcoating it and no one's buying it. And I think that in an attempt to make incels look better, you've actually managed to make them look worse.
What data have you seen that has brought you to this conclusion? Because I'm now curious where I can get this data from.
I couldn't reference it offhand, but I believe there was a study that I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Because you're talking.
Who knows? He may not. I've read studies that I don't remember the name of, and if you ask me on the spot, I probably wouldn't be able to name them. Would you?
Yeah, I understand that.
I just think it's interesting that Jubilee left that part in, but when the other discussion happened about studies and stats, they actually told the people there present, do not reference your stats, do not reference your numbers, because for the sake of the discussion, we have to talk about ideas. Just an interesting note. Because I remember I talked to Kurtzat privately, and he said, they actually stopped me from speaking about the studies I'm referencing because they didn't like us talking based off facts.
One-sided.
So just an interesting editing note, but let's keep going.
Off the top of my head.
Okay.
What do you think it is about liberal areas that create behavior in women that you think is a problem?
Promiscuity leads to increased standards in more primitive aspects such as looks, and that typically makes it harder for some people to find a relationship, including sometimes good-looking people. Like, there's guys who are much better looking than I am who are having a really hard time finding someone in a place like LA or in London or in Auckland, New Zealand, but they probably would have a perfectly fine time finding a woman somewhere else.
So you think that promiscuity is the problem, and if people were more monogamous and more withholding, that would sort of fix society?
Yeah, I suppose if people were more traditionalist.
So by people not being monogamous and not being promiscuous, you think it's going to give you more chances of scoring? The mathematics of that is broken.
How so? If more people are monogamous, then that does mean that he'd have more chances of scoring.
How?
Because let's say if there's 50 women and 50 men and each one of them can only couple with one person, then more people are going to couple.
There's some people that are going to couple with nobody.
If people are more monogamous, no.
If they're more promiscuous and they're going around, they're going to be like, man, whatever.
No, because imagine, let's say it's like the job market. You want to apply to a high-level job, they're not hiring you. You're going to accept a lower-paying job. Same idea with dating. People settle all the time. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it is certainly true that in more monogamous societies, where monogamy is far more encouraged through culture, that more people couple with each other.
But if you're more promiscuous and you have 50 people and 50 people, you're going to go around.
No. It's literally 10 guys. That's literally the definition of a hypergamy, which is how women operate. They go at their level or above. So the guys who are below their level are not getting some.
But the guys are.
10 guys are. 40 guys aren't. And it's like that even on college campuses. College campuses, if you look, is actually a small minority of men who plow all the women.
Where these actually stated that they were incels, or what do you think about their actions?
I condemn their actions. I do think that the reason why they committed those actions was probably because of out of desperation or out of, mental problems that probably could have been prevented had the right support was in their community, in their household. If people saw what they were posting and saw what they were experiencing in life and did something to help them.
I agree. Even in the point of incels, like I give you that. Whenever they state that they're lonely or stuff like that, it might be very maladroit, the best way that they could express themselves.
Sure.
And they're going to be ostracized for that. Just the fact that men are people that do not talk about the mental issues because of the pressure of the society and other things and whatnot.
One of the common criticisms about the incel community is that you feel entitled to intimacy. Do you believe that you deserve?
I think everybody at some level deserves someone that loves them and respects them, as long as you are also.
Consistently, you've disrespected women. You say everybody deserves someone that's going to love them and respect them, but you're not respecting women because you want to treat them like children. How is that going to make you lay, bruh?
Well, he would argue that even if he did respect women, he still wouldn't get laid.
I understand that, but it takes more than just respect. It's more than R-E-S-P-C-T, you understand? This life is not a song. I mean, I've been rejected, and at some point, you have to understand if you do the same thing and you expect a different result, that's just the definition of insanity. You understand what I'm saying? There's someone here in Canada, in Montreal as a matter of fact, that is giving classes to new immigrants, just to tell them how things work with women here, because women here don't have the same way of thinking than in their countries. You know, people might be awkward and for some way because they act in a certain way. You know, if you Haitian from Haiti and you just came to Montreal and you came with your Haitian swagger, it might not work here. You're going to be trying to speak French. Bonjour, mademoiselle. Comment allez-vous? Vous savez que vous êtes... That's corny here. You understand what I'm saying?
I would counter by saying his argument would probably be that's a matter of changing your culture. What he can't change are his looks, and his looks are always going to exclude him from the dating pool.
It's not just about looks. Jay-Z is with Beyonce, but let's remember that.
But he's also going to counter then by saying, yeah, it's about social status. He'll say it's about making mad money.
I know some Jay-Z's that are not Jay-Z. You understand what I'm saying? And they're getting it. But
you mean some minimum wage Jay-Z's?
Yeah.
Oh, really? And they get some?
Yes,
Okay.
and they get some. It ain't got nothing to do with necessarily money or fame or all of that. You have certain assets. Listen, and on top of the thing, this Derrick dude, right by now, people are like, ugh, this guy's disgusting. But he's not a bad looking dude. He could get some. With this attitude, it's like one attitude leads to another thing, leads to another thing. He's stuck in a loop that's not gonna get him some.
If you can tell the world about something about being incel that, that may not be in the internet or that's overlooked heavily, what would it be?
I don't know. I think it's mostly that most of the men are not inherently bad people. A lot of them are just lonely. They just need some help, really.
Okay. Would you say that there's anything that other people can do to help guide or just support or anything?
You know, the lonely person in your class or the lonely person in your workplace, maybe he's an incel and he's not letting you know and he's just kind of afraid he wants someone positive. Just be nice, say hi, try and make friends with him. You don't have to date him, you don't have to.
In the Jubilee video, didn't you say you couldn't be friends with a woman?
That woman could be your best friend. That, so.
I don't think you can be friends with a woman, so.
Oh, nigga, you got receipts? Yeah, he did say that. Yeah, oh, wow.
Okay.
To
maybe Derrick's credit, what he was trying to say is like, just be friendly to the person and show them that they're not ignored by society completely. Maybe. I'm going to say maybe just use his words wrong because Derrick doesn't strike me as the kind of person who knows how to communicate effectively or use his terms properly. Hence the fact why we probably shouldn't let men like him make decisions for themselves. And that we should...
and we should babysit them. I see what you did there.
Yeah, I'm just playing.
You're not an incel, you're a cell, bro.
Yeah, right.
You don't want to be an incel?
No.
Why not?
Yo, you have to be pretty dumb to make Derrick look smart. It's literally in
Why
the
don't
title.
you want to be an incel?
Involuntary celibate. Do you have to fight fighters? Yeah. Why? Because I'm a firefighter. It's in the name, dum-dum.
You don't have to see the bad things in the world and then come out a bad person. You can just see the bad things in the world and then improve upon yourself because of them, I suppose.
So you do have hope.
Yeah, I have hope, yeah. I'm a very hopeful person, I suppose.
Thank God.
I don't think he's going to be an incel much longer. I think he's going to figure it out. He's not nearly as dumb or as bad as people have made him out to be. I do think he has some logical inconsistencies and he's in some bad thinking patterns. But at the end of the day, if you were constantly encountering failure in life, you cannot go at it with the mindset that the world is the problem. Because that's a losing attitude. It takes the agency away from you. It takes the power away from you. And you tell yourself, I am in this situation because the world is like this. No, you're in this situation because of a lot of the choices that you make and your poor strategies. I do think the incel community gets a bit of a bad rap, and some of it is self-imposed just because of the way they talk about women in private and all this stuff that comes to light.
It's not so involuntary. A lot of what they face is self-inflicted.
Sure, 100%. But I do think that there has been a lot of mischaracterizations. I think people have not taken the time to see it as a mental health problem. You know, loneliness is an epidemic in North America in general and most of the Western developed world. People are dealing with loneliness in terrible ways. And you know what the incel community is the equivalent of? Like the female equivalent would be K. Michelle.
All men are... No, boo-boo. You need to find out about what it is about your patterns that makes it
100%.
And why do you keep attracting them people? Yeah, K. Michelle is an incel.
There are female incels. They're called femcels. you see that on the opposite end. When women become very lonely and they also engage in bad forms of self-preservation. What these men are doing is another form of that. I don't encourage it. It doesn't do good for your mental health. We have a loneliness problem in this society, and the best thing that we can do is to address that issue. Now, some of their strategies that they're suggesting is essentially that, like, forced monogamy. I don't think that's a tenable situation. Okay. I don't think it's a tenable situation, but why do you think that's a bad idea? Forced monogamy.
Because it doesn't solve the problem. The person's still going to have those patterns. You're going to force people to get into with someone else. It doesn't solve the issue. It just solves one symptom, and the symptom is you not being with someone. You are a certain way mentally, and you have those patterns mentally. Therefore, it prevents you from being with someone. Now, you're just fixing the being with someone part, but this thing over here is not changed. Therefore, when eventually this thing breaks, the pattern is going to repeat itself. It's just like whenever you're sick. If I have a headache and I just take an aspirin to have a headache, well, I'm just solving that. But what is the actual problem? Do I have high blood pressure? And that's what you have to solve. The problem. If I keep on eating crap, I'm going to keep on having headaches, right?
But isn't it possible that they're saying that if I do find that person, that a lot of that stuff over here is no longer going to be a thing?
The patterns are going to stay the same. What's going to happen is that if ever you're to break up with that person, you're only going to fall deeper in your patterns because it's going to be a deception and your patterns are not going to be solved. So no, I believe you need to solve the problems and then after that get with the person. And actually one is going to lead to the other. That's what I think, but I'm no expert.
I see women who constantly complain about the dating scene.
People are going to be unhappy. The reason why they're going to be unhappy is because they weren't there before.
Right. And so,
so
I think we have to have a society where people are able to choose. That has to be the case. Even if you don't want to engage in casual encounters, you should have the right to do so if you want to. That's what I believe. That being said, I do think the way a lot of dating trends are going right now, a lot of people just seem displeased with the scene. So maybe there is some validity to the idea that we may want to encourage monogamy a bit more now.
No matter what, the grass is always going to be greener, and people are going to have complaints. Yo, I've heard millionaires complain. The weather. You could go anywhere you want.
But I would argue that if people are rating their levels of happiness way higher in countries where monogamy is far more encouraged, maybe there is a point to the idea that the way we're doing things isn't healthy for us. We do have an epidemic of loneliness in our countries. We do find people who have no one in their lives, and it is a problem because we do know that if you are single in your old age especially, you're at higher rates of dying sooner, the higher rates of all kinds of other issues, right? So
But I think there's a lot of things that come to that. It would be unfair to be like, oh, because it's a place where we don't encourage monogamy, that there's a high place of loneliness, that it's a relation. No.
What do you mean?
There's more factors in that. Just the internet use and the way that people are really on their phones is also. So there's more than one. I believe there's more than one factor.
It's very rare that anything is one variable.
Yeah.
It's multivariable.
So just putting it on that, I'm just saying that would be just.
I don't think anyone's making the argument that they're putting it just on that. You should always find for all the variables that contribute to a problem.
Yeah.
That being said, if we do have an epidemic and we do find that people are not in relationships, people are never dating, people are never having those opportunities. A lot of people. This is not a small. It's a lot of people. Maybe the way that we're structuring society is not working. It's like extreme forms of capitalism. Yeah. We're always like, capitalism is great, but then when you see like the wealthiest of the wealth hoard, it's not good. And you know what happens when there's too much inequality, right?
Of course.
It becomes a problem for all societies. Yeah. And so if we have that in the dating world as well, I could see how that could become a problem.
I could see that too.
But I mean, this is us just talking through some ideas. I think I disagree with incels and their stances. I sympathize because I think loneliness is a real problem and we do treat it like a mental health issue. So that should be accorded to them because I just think those are lonely people who have found people who feel that way. And at the end of the day, we want to be understood and we want people to get us. And so I understand why that community exists. But I do think it's bad to be around people who are in the same. It's like drug addicts hanging out with drug addicts is not a good idea, right? And so in that same token, I think this is also similar.
And the thing with incels as well is like what I've seen that they have in common is they have poor social skills.
Yeah. How do you teach people social skills? You dig what I'm saying?
Often the lack of social skills comes with having anxiety and stuff like that. And there's much more anxiety. There's so much to untangle. There's so many other factors that, that we have to tackle.
Sure. And I think we've covered a lot of them, whether it be the mental health problem, whether we cover the monogamy aspect. It's a lot. We get that. I just think the stigma associated with being an incel and the way people talk about it all the time isn't conducive to them coming forward and talking about their mental health issues. If you already feel shame and you already feel invalid because of the way society treats you, then society looking at you for being an incel and then telling you you're trash some more doesn't make you want to seek help. It just drives you towards darker places. Fair. So I think being more open about these things, the same way when we talked about K. Michelle, we said, yo, heal that trauma because it's not going to help you, boo-boo.
Girl.
We have to have that same conversation with people who are incels. Even if their views are terrible, you have to understand those views are generally a byproduct of the bad loops that are in. So if we undo those loops, I feel like a lot of those views will also be undone. So that's where I stand on this. I think it's always an interesting discussion to have. And we're glad to have it with you guys. So let us know what you think in the comments below about incels and what we've talked about, some of our ideas today.